Good morning, everyone, and welcome into Wake and Take. It's your boy Jason, and we've got some football to talk about today. And of course, we're just going to be breaking down the Stefon Diggs trade fallout today. The beauty of Wake and Take, we talked about it earlier this week. Just when big news happens, all you have to do is just talk about that big news. We're going to dive right in. Everything you need to know about Stefon Diggs, everything you need to know about CJ Stroud, everything you need to know about Josh Allen, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Justin Shorter. We're going to be talking about it. So go ahead, take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So yeah, good morning to you, everyone here in the chat, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. Great to see you all this morning, as always. It's some good stuff. Sorry for being a couple minutes late. I'm sure you guys can relate to this. Listen to music in the morning, putting all my stuff together, working on stuff for Player Profiler in general. So, you've got to have the tunes going. And, well, right about 10 o'clock, a song I wanted to hear came on. I was like, well, I've got to listen to this whole song before I go live, or else what's the point, right? I don't know if you guys ever have that happen. Like, say you're like driving home or whatever, running errands, and then like as you pull into your neighborhood or apartment complex, like a song comes on. It's like, well, guess I've got to sit in my parked car while I finish this song before I go back upstairs or to the house or whatever. What? Everyone has different living situations. I don't know why I'm trying to cover them all, but music's good, and it's nice to finish a song if you started it. So that's why I'm a couple minutes late, but it's not like you guys even care. A lot of you are watching after it's live anyway, so whatever. It is time to talk some football. It's time to talk some Stefon Diggs. Yesterday, absolute blockbuster deal goes down as the Buffalo Bills are sending Stefon Diggs to the Houston Texans in exchange for a 25th second-round pick. The Bills will also be sending their 2024 sixth-round pick and their 2025 fifth-round pick. And one last thing on that, the Bills will be getting the 25th second from the Vikings. If you remember, the Texans traded their first-round pick this year to the Vikings for their second-round pick this year and next year, I believe. Maybe something else was involved as well. I can't remember. But either way, this second-round pick will be coming from the Vikings, which does lead me to say that this is probably going to be a higher draft pick than if they had given up their second-round pick in 2025. But I doubt that the Buffalo Bills wanted, the Texans second, especially after trading Stefon Diggs, especially after watching how good they were last year. There's a lot, honestly, to unpack here when it comes to the Bills trading away Stefon Diggs. Michael points out one of those. The Bills will be paying $3 million of Diggs' contract. And they were not, it really wasn't a bad contract that Stefon Diggs was under in today's current wide receiver landscape. In fact, it's a really good contract for the Houston Texans, and that's probably why he garnered a second-round pick to begin with. If we'll remember, another 30-something-year-old wide receiver that's still elite got traded just a few weeks ago with Keenan Allen just going for a fourth-round pick. This gives you a couple extra rounds. I know he's a year younger, but his contract is so much better than Keenan Allen's. Keenan Allen was up to almost $30 million on his contract, whereas Stefon Diggs is only an $18 million cap hit over the next few seasons. In fact, it's so good for the Houston Texans that not only is he counting about 18 to 20 million this year, less than the franchise tag, but also if he sucks this year, there's an out on the contract where they will have to pay absolutely $0 of dead cap. So this is essentially a risk-free move for the Texans. Well, not risk-free. You're giving up a second. But, kind of going all in on this season while CJ Stroud's still on his rookie contract, while Nico Collins is still under his rookie contract. As you know, they'll have to try to pick up his fifth-round option. They have to make that decision pretty soon as well. So they're going all in this season. And getting Stefon Diggs under a really good contract where they will have the option to either just cut bait if it goes poorly, or if they decide to keep him, he'll be under contract for 3 more years for only $68 million if they don't use the out. So again, that's about 20-something million with bonuses or whatever, but that is a really, 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 really good deal for wide receivers in today's market. We've talked about how expensive wide receivers are these days, and that's why I've been suggesting a lot of these teams in the early first round do want their should want a wide receiver, a Cardinals, a Patriots, a Giants. So either way, and also BTG points out Nico wasn't a first rounder, so he doesn't get that 5th round option. You're right. You're right. He was the 3rd rounder. I don't know why I thought that for a second. But either way, going all in this year, really good contract for the Texans. And, something had to go awry for the Bills to want to get out from under that. I mean, they need the weapon. They wouldn't have had to do anything with dead cap. They actually have to pay some of, like, they're paying the $3 million of it. They might pay even more, to be honest, over the course of this thing. But either way, Bills, kind of had to send him out of town because things were just not going right. There was no agreement between the two. We'd already been hearing for years now that Stefon Diggs wanted out. He is finally out. One last thing on kind of just the whole situation in general. Supposedly Josh Allen was not informed that he would be traded or that he was even being on the block, which of course, that obviously stings for Josh Allen. Like, you would think that an organization would give you everything you need to know if you're the franchise quarterback, like let you know, especially what's going on with your wide receiver 1. But also this is just, a business at the end of the day. And if the Bills front office felt that they had to move on from Stefon Diggs, well, Josh Allen just had to suck it up as much as it sucks. So, let's just talk about the fallout here. So again, I think Texans are getting a steal here, especially with that $0 in dead cap next season if they choose to move on. And if they don't choose to move on, just a pretty friendly wide receiver contract for 3 more years. So really they have a chance to have Stefon Diggs for 4 seasons at a decent rate, or just 1 season at a decent rate with nothing going against them next season if they do choose to move on. Just a win-win for the Texans, really filling out that wide receiver core, giving CJ Stroud elite weapons all over the field. It's really, 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 really great stuff. And Michael says that he thinks that Stefon Diggs has at least 1 more solid year in him. And I kind of agree. And I do also agree with this next point, that he's not a lock to lead the Houston wide receiver room in production. So that's what we're going to talk about here. But before we get into that, I want to talk about just the quarterback in Houston because I think that's really the biggest mover from this whole shakeup. CJ Stroud, I believe he's the Dynasty QB1 now. I am doing that in my own personal rankings. I know that that's harsh, and I would say that the floor would be QB3. I think that with this move, CJ Stroud at the very least needs to go ahead of Patrick Mahomes. You have another, like, if you're just talking pure pocket passing quarterbacks, maybe not pure, but pocket passing quarterbacks, and then CJ Stroud is a little bit of a scrambling. Patrick Mahomes is a little bit of a scrambling. Like, they both get some rush touchdowns, but basically a pocket passing quarterback. CJ Stroud's the best one to have for fantasy football. He's the youngest. He already scores the most points, has one of the best wide receiver cores. I can't think of a single reason why you would rank Patrick Mahomes over CJ Stroud in fantasy football. We saw last year, right, where Patrick Mahomes was disappointing for fantasy football. And we've already talked about it. Like, that might just be the Chiefs' strategy kind of going forward, just letting Travis Kelce sneak through the whole season, keeping him healthy, just doing what needs to be done to make the playoffs, not necessarily setting the world on fire in the regular season. That is not what the Texans are doing. The Texans want to set the world on fire. They want CJ Stroud to throw 4 touchdowns a game. They want CJ Stroud to throw 400 passing yards a game, and they want to go undefeated here. I mean, this is an incredible move by them, and all it does is make CJ Stroud that much better. He was already sitting at QB4 in Dynasty without Stefon Diggs. Now with him, he's got to move up. And really the difference between me and others is just the rushing, right? Like, yes, Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen have much more rushing upside than CJ Stroud. So I get it. If you want to put them ahead of Stroud still, sure. But for me, I'm going to go with the younger quarterback with a projected longer career, given he runs the ball less, with one of the best wide receiver cores in the league, with a really good coaching staff, with an already incredible rookie season under his belt. I'm genuinely, the sky is the limit for CJ Stroud. They talked about it on the Sonic Truth when it happened yesterday, and they said that he'll probably start going 101 in Dynasty startups, and I do not hate that at all. I will be the one doing it. Spoiler alert to everyone listening that is in the Wake and Take Listener League. I will be nominating CJ Stroud with the first nomination for our auction draft. He will be kicking that bad boy off. I'm not letting anyone else kick it off. It's going to be me, and I'm going to be nominating CJ Stroud because I want to see what he goes for in our 32-teamer and just in general. I think that he is the quintessential franchise quarterback for Dynasty rosters. I'm telling you that right now. 4,000 yards as a passer as a rookie. Finished QB7 in points per game last year as a rookie. Only 22 years old. Top 5 in passer rating versus both man and zone coverages last year. I mean, you can go on and on and on and on and on about how good CJ Stroud was last year, and now you're telling me it's gonna get better? My Lord, I want that guy so bad on my roster. QB1 in Dynasty, in my opinion, in my book. For easy. Literally don't even have to think about it. I saw it happen, and that was my immediate reaction. I even commented it in the Sonic Truth live chat. I said lock for QB1 in Dynasty. He is just so good. Literally just so good. So that's kind of my thing on CJ Stroud. A lot of people are out there saying, oh, sell the hype on CJ Stroud, sell high. That is the stupidest thing you can do right now. The stupidest thing you can do right now is sell CJ Stroud. You have a franchise quarterback locked into your dynasty team. Hold him like the precious award and trophy he is. Just hold him and enjoy it until he retires. Don't let go. It's incredible. It's incredible. It's incredible. I love it. 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 And I also now love the volume and value on Tank Dell and Nico Collins. You're telling me that Nico Collins last year had a 22.7% target share, good for 29th in the league. That's not that high. 22% target share. Again, 29th highest target share among all wide receivers. What did he do with that? Well, he finished with 17.4 points per game, the 7th highest points per game of all wide receivers in the NFL last year, with only the 29th highest target share. Hyper efficient, hyper productive, doesn't even need a lot of volume. And now you're telling me you can buy Nico Collins for mid to late second? What? What are you talking about? This is ridiculous. Stop fading Nico Collins. Stop fading Tank Dell. All of these guys can eat. This is a pie gets bigger type scenario here. I don't understand. I don't understand why everyone's like, oh, Nico Collins is a bust now. He sucks. No. He broke out last year, year 3, finally with a quarterback, finally had a good quarterback. And what we see, he actually performed how we've been expecting him to since his rookie season. We've been in love with his profile for years, and we finally got the production. And now we're off of him because a 30-year-old wide receiver showed up? No, hell no. Give me Nico Collins every day of the week at his current price tag. Such a cheap guy. Just had 1,300 yards and 8 touchdowns, again, off of a 22% target share. That's not that high. He could easily get that same exact target share next year, and you can look at his profile and just see exactly what I'm talking about. 24th most targets, 14th in target share, 63rd in snap share, 56th in routes run, 68th in route participation. I mean, I'm going on and on and on about how his opportunity was terrible last year. And yet, 7th in points per game, 11th in total touchdowns, 8th in receiving yards, 6th in yards after catch, 2nd in yards per route run, 3rd in yards per target, 9th in yards per reception. I mean, what else do you want, guys? Led the league in fantasy points per target versus man. 5th in expected points added, 4th in production premium, 2nd in QB rating per target, 4th in fantasy points per route run. Guys, don't overthink this. Nico Collins, a stud attached to a stud quarterback. And if anything, he's going to be even more open now because defenses are definitely going to be keying in on Stefon Diggs now. And so he's still going to score an enormous amount of touchdowns, and he's still going to get a ton of yards, and he's still going to be a huge threat on one of the best, if not the best, offenses in the league, guys. Get some Nico Collins on your roster and get some Tank Dell. Get some Tank Dell, guys. This guy, literally, last year, so good, just so good. In fact, sometimes better than Nico Collins. In fact, he's ranked ahead of Nico Collins, ranked ahead of Stefon Diggs right now, wide receiver 25 before this move. Only had 10 games last year and still finished with 709 yards and 7 touchdowns. He had a 25% target share, 20th in the league, and took that for the 18th best points per game, averaging 15 points per game. He had 1, 2, 3, 4 games over 20 points last season. Just absolutely on fire. Another 2 over 15 points. I mean, it was just such a good season from him. And now it's going to, again, be even better. He's going to be able to be used much more creatively and sneak open like T.Y. Hilton made a career of in Indianapolis, the ghost, if you will. Like, it's just such a good route runner. He's going to be open. CJ Stroud loved him last year. As I just said, had a higher target share than Nico Collins did, despite playing in less games. Both of these guys, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, they've taken a hit by them, because I would not be surprised if either of those wide receivers outscored Stefon Diggs next season. And in fact, the current way I'm looking into this right now is that Nico Collins still leads the Texans in points per game. Next season, Tank Dell leads the Texans in points per game, and then Nico Collins leads the Texans wide receivers in season-long points. Just because I do want to mention with Tank Dell, you'll probably get injured again. I know we hate saying that on shows like this and in fantasy football analysis and all that. Literally, the main reason no one wanted Tank Dell last season is because of his size, his frame, and injury concerns. We saw those injury concerns, right? He ended the year on IR, missed a couple games, didn't finish a couple games. Like, it's still going to happen next year where he's going to struggle to see the field on a consistent basis just because of his frame and size. But when he's out there, he's going to be incredible, which again makes me want to buy Nico Collins, because I think Tank Dell is probably going to miss some time. And I wouldn't be surprised if 30-year-old Stefon Diggs missed some time either. Both of those wide receivers, Diggs and Tank Dell, need to be bought right now. I do not understand the sell. Do not understand the total collapse. Everyone out there calling Nico Collins a bust and it's over. No way, Jose. Nico Collins is a stud, a beast, a monster, scoring at least 10 touchdowns again next season, scoring double-digit fantasy points a game again next season. And all three of these wide receivers will probably finish top 20 because Stefon Diggs last season, pretty good year. Now, I will say from weeks 1 to 10, much better. From weeks 1 to 10, he only had one game under 15 points, and then things kind of slowed down weeks 10 through 20, especially when Joe Brady came to town. He only had 3 games over 9 points in weeks 10 to 20, so literally a tale of 2 different seasons for him last year. But still, he's had 1,000 yards in every season since 2018. He still last year averaged 16 points per game, which was 13th in this league, and still last year had a near 30% target share, which was 9th in the league. Now, he's getting opportunity. He's having some production. His efficiency is not great anymore. And that's why I do think that it's an easy shot for either Nico Collins or Tank Dell to outscore him by the end of the year. I think Stefon Diggs will be the most consistent producer out of these, but Tank Dell and Nico Collins have such a higher ceiling. They just do. They're the deep threats. They're the guys who are going up and making these contested catches. Just so good, those two. And Stefon Diggs only is going to make it easier on them as well. Maybe a little less targets, but let's just talk about this. Stefon Diggs, 30% target share. Nico Collins, 22% target share. Tank Dell, 25% target shares last season. All three finished top 20 in points per game. Well, if you did the math, that's only 77% target share, still 23% of targets available. So all three of those guys could get the same exact volume as they got last season and maybe even more and still be just as productive. Like, that's not a huge piece of the pie being taken by those three, because I mean, like a running back like a Joe Mixon probably only needs like 10%. And then Dalton Schultz probably only needs like, 10% or so. And then you're still not even at 100%. You're still sitting there at 97%. Which leads up a little bit of volume to be mixed around here and there to other players as well. It's going to be fine. All of these Texans wide receivers are going to be stud, and the studdiest stud of all is going to be CJ Stroud. Buy him, buy him if you can. I would 100% say with absolute certainty, do not sell CJ Stroud. Coleridge Bernard Stroud IV should never, ever, ever be sold in Dynasty fantasy football. That's my Texan spiel. I feel like I kind of went in on that one. Let's check into the comments, see how you guys are feeling for sure. Would you trade Stroud for Burrow in a first? No. Preach, Jason. People get too wrapped up in treating players like stocks, forgetting we need to win. This is so true. Texans now have 3 top 24 receivers. Exactly. Yes. Go send out some Nico offers. Do it. How much does this hurt Schultz's value? Not much at all. He didn't get too much volume last year and was still producing. I think it's going to be about the same. So Anyway, I'm feeling really good about this Texans team. Will Mechie ever get a snap now? Yeah, he'll get a snap. Not many. I would say hold on to him. If you have him, it sucks that he's not taxi squad eligible. I feel like he should technically only have like the 1 year of eligibility or whatever for a lot of leagues. But either way, I do think he'll probably see the field a little bit. I still do have a little bit of hope for Mechie, but it's going to take an injury at some point for sure. So let's go ahead and move on to the Bills takeaways here. And it's honestly going to be kind of the opposite of what I just said, really. So I am not going to be saying go out over your skis for any of these Bills players, except for Josh Allen. Because we've talked about it a lot on Trade Gods. Just because a player's value doesn't necessarily go down doesn't mean that it's not a buy window. Because with sometimes players like a Josh Allen, a Jamar Chase, a Justin Jefferson, just the fact that the window is open, that you can realistically send out offers and maybe get a counter back even, that's a buy window for a player like Josh Allen. I don't care if you get him at a discount. I would still pay the Josh Allen price you were paying 2 days ago. He's still a really, really good quarterback. I move him down to my QB2 now. Whoa. But that's just because I'm so big on CJ Stroud. I just think that that's an absolute, machine waiting to happen. Josh Allen's still going to have a really good year, though. What insulates his value is his rushing upside. This guy's still going to run the ball a ton, going to have rushing touchdowns, and still going to spread the ball around. And the Bills are probably going to add a wide receiver in the first round, and if not, in the second and third, right? Like get a few weapons to surround him with. Or they could be one of the teams going out there and trading for some of these wide receivers that have been, circulating around the media, like a Brandon Ayuk or a T. Higgins. Both of those wide receivers, lots of hype about them potentially being traded. Maybe the Bills are in on them. But either way, this current Bills weapon core is not the weapon core they will be using in week 1. It'll be similar, right? Like all of these people that you could be buying right now will still be on the Bills. But I do think that all of them, minus Josh Allen, might have become a bit too inflated by the potential target share that they'll get with Stefon Diggs gone. I don't know if it's that big of a deal. I really don't. I know that Stefon Diggs had a crazy amount of targets, again, 30% target share last year, which of course makes the pie being able to be split amongst these Buffalo Bills really well. But then you just kind of look at the names and it's like, do I really want to be buying Curtis Samuel, Mac Hollins, Justin Shorter, maybe KJ Hamler? Like, I don't know. Probably not. I would say if any of those players are available and you've got a roster spot, sure. I just picked up KJ Hamler in the Trade Gods League, for example, but that's just because I have a type. I like these speedy guys and I can't quit them. So I went ahead and picked up KJ Hamler because I think there's some potential there, right? Justin Shorter spent all of last season on IR with a hamstring injury. He had decent enough draft capital. He's got a good profile and good frame. Maybe he becomes a red zone threat. Same could be said about Mac Hollins. He had a couple good games with the Falcons, great year with the Raiders the year before. Maybe he turns into something. But those 3 wide receivers have something different in that those 3 have upside at no cost. You can get Shorter, Hamler, Hollins for free. Curtis Samuel, you have to pay up for right now, and I'm just not doing it. He could totally have a good year. I know they just paid him $30 million, but that's over a couple seasons. That's not that high for a wide receiver in today's market. And again, I think someone's going to be added. And Curtis Samuel is just more of a complementary piece. I think that James Cook is going to get a lot of that kind of shorter usage, right, where he's a pass catcher. Curtis Samuel's going to get used, but I think his price has become too inflated. My take on Khalil Shakir, I'm very much back and forth on Khalil Shakir because this is a wide receiver I like. I do like him. You look at the profile and it's pretty exciting. Last season, from week 8 onward, he had a 40% snap share or more, only 2 games or only 1 game under 50% snap share, and he did all right. Here are his fantasy performances week 8 to 20: 15.2. 9.7, 3.4, 20.5, 7.7, 2, 0, 7, 9, 16, 12, 17. So he kind of ended the season on a tear, and I still think that he's going to be getting some volume next season, but I just kind of want to see how it shakes out before I'm comfortable paying up for these, because I say this a lot. The wide receiver market in general for fantasy football is just so deep. And I don't like, there's just, I feel like there's a bunch of wide receivers like Khalil Shakir that you can get a little bit cheaper. I know that his potential target is going up a lot, and that's why he's the one I'm kind of scratching my head about the most. Like, maybe I would pay up for Khalil Shakir, but I think with that, I wouldn't give any draft picks for Khalil Shakir. I'm not sure where I would lean with that. He was worth a third before the move and Diggs news. Like, that's probably still exactly where I'd go. And I don't even know if I'd give a third. Like, I think Khalil Shakir is the type of player I would try to get in a throw in with a player trade. Like, say you're downgrading, for example, and you just need something to kind of even the gap. That's where I would see a Khalil Shakir kind of coming into play. But I don't think I would be giving a third. I damn sure would not give a second. I know that it's tough to say right now because listen to this, guys. Listen to this. I mentioned all of his game logs, right, from week 8 onward. But here are the metrics that he actually led the NFL in. He was number 1 in the NFL in production premium, target premium, quarterback rating per target, target accuracy, target quality, and yards per target. Those are all really, really good metrics for a wide receiver to be leading the NFL in, especially one that didn't have a ton of volume or opportunity. So that definitely caught my eye. He was also second in fantasy points per target. So he was incredibly efficient last year. And if his volume goes up, he'll still be efficient with more volume on a really good offense. So if you can get Khalil Shakir for the right price, I'm going to do it. I just don't think I would give this inflated price. I would more so try to get him as a throw-in, maybe a late third, as Michael says. But even then, there's some really good rookies in third round. Third round in one quarterback. Let's do it. We'll say a third and single quarterback. In Superflex, I think I'm at like a fourth with him still. Maybe a late third, depending on everything. But there's just a lot of good players in this year's draft. And I kind of want to see how all that shakes out. I want to see what wide receiver the Bills draft or potentially trade for. They're not done with this room. So I don't want to get over my skis on really any of the wide receivers except maybe Khalil Shakir and then the free ones. Like I said, I'm fine if you've got a roster space, you want to use it on Mac Hollins, Justin Shorter, KJ Hamler to see what hype builds over the offseason. Sure, whatever. But, you know, the ones that actually cost money are where I'm scratching my head. Even like Dalton Kincaid, right? Like I see Dalton Kincaid now. Oh, is he, you know, the Dynasty tight end 2? Has he jumped Brock Bowers and Trey McBride and, you know, gotten closer to Sam Laporta? I don't know. Last year, he ended terribly. Like 2 basically nothing burgers in the fantasy playoffs. And those were weeks where he was actually a featured person on this offense. And it was just gone. And so I don't want to be paying up for Dalton Kincaid. I would much rather be taking Dalton Kincaid, for example. Listen to this, guys. You could trade Dalton Kincaid for like Kyle Pitts in a second probably right now. Like that's just incredible to me. I would 100% be doing that. I'm not buying Dalton Kincaid right now. I'm probably holding him if I have him and selling him if I can get a king's ransom, because I don't think the fantasy production is necessarily going to be there as much as some are saying. Again, they're still going to be adding a weapon. And last year, he wasn't like that great. He wasn't incredibly efficient in any means, right? I just looked at his profile before this, and this was all I could grab. He scored 2 touchdowns. Fine. He had a 17% target share, which was 14th amongst tight ends. Fine. And he had 9.4 points per game, which was also 14th amongst tight ends, which was fine. I know he's got a good profile. I know he's going to get a lot of targets his way. But, I mean, we're talking about, like, you've got to pay up for Dalton Kincaid right now, and I'm not doing it. I'm just not doing it. Hold him if you have him. Sell him for a king's ransom if you can, too. If you can get Kyle Pitts or TJ Hawkinson plus or Mark Andrews plus, which you probably can, do it. Do it. Take Dalton Kincaid, get Mark Andrews, get Kyle Pitts, get TJ Hawkinson. I think you can do it, and I think you can get a really nice cherry on top. James Cook for the Bills. What is going on with James Cook? Well, you know, I think things are probably pretty good. In fact, I think he's going to be one of the ones that's more insulated here. I would maybe still be paying up for James Cook because his value didn't go up too much. This has mostly affected the wide receivers and stuff. But last year, he had the 25th best target share amongst wide receivers or running backs with only 10%. That could probably go up to like 15. It probably could. And he still finished last year with only the 25th best target share, was 17th in receptions and 8th in receiving yards. Incredible efficiency and productivity out of the backfield for him. Was top 5 in yards per target and EPA, and finished the year with over 1,000 rush yards. I mean, James Cook was explosive last year and looked really, really good. And I think is going into the year where he can finally be that bell cow, finally break out in the true James Cook fashion that we want from him. And even if he doesn't, I think you'll still get a pretty good year from him. So I think if anything, James Cook and Josh Allen are my two biggest buys. Khalil Shakir is my question mark buy, depending on price. Dalton Kincaid, I'm just going to say sell, to be completely honest with you. I think tight end values are very, very strange right now. So I think you can get a ton of value for Dalton Kincaid, especially when you take into account the actual fantasy points that'll be scored. Like, show of hands, everyone in the comment section right now, I'm talking to you. If you're listening and you can type, I'm talking to you. Put it right now in the comment section if you watch after live. Put it right now in the live chat. Would you be surprised if Mark Andrews scored more points than Dalton Kincaid? Would you be surprised if TJ Hawkinson scored more points than Dalton Kincaid? Would you be surprised if Kyle Pitts scored more points than Dalton Kincaid? And lastly, would you be surprised if Evan Ingram scored more points than Dalton Kincaid? And I think the answer to all of those is not really. I think we all expect a good season from Dalton Kincaid, but I think we all expect good seasons from a lot of other tight ends as well. And you could get a ton of value for Dalton Kincaid right now. So let's just say move on. So to kind of sum this up, let's go ahead and say never, ever sell CJ Stroud. Sell Stefon Diggs if you're not contending. If you are contending, hold on. But if you're not contending, flip them. In fact, you can probably use Stefon Diggs right now if you're not contending and get Nico Collins or Tank Dell plus. Maybe you have to do a 1v1. But either way, I'm doing that. Use Stefon Diggs if you're not contending. Get Dell or Nico plus, or just 1-for-1 swap if you have to. Buy Nico Collins. Buy Tank Dell. Buy Josh Allen. Buy James Cook. Sell Dalton Kincaid. Question mark? Khalil Shakir. Don't buy Curtis Samuel. So sell him if you can, maybe. And then, pick up Matt Collins, Justin Shorter, KJ Hamler. See what happens with those fellas. See what happens. So I see everyone in the chat. Everyone has said that all of those players could totally score more points than Dalton Kincaid. And that is the best way to wrap this bad boy up. Fantasy Dog even says Jake Ferguson could score more points than Dalton Kincaid next season. And I'm with them. Sell Dalton Kincaid, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. This was another great episode of Wake and Take, and you guys were a fantastic audience as always. I hope to see you all tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern on the Player Profiler, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Have a terrific Thursday and a wonderful rest of your week. Peace.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to playerprofiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, data analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.